All right. Okay. Thank you all. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. So let's just get into it. I think there's still some supporting info that I'm going to need, like for the capital stuff. Like I don't know what that consists of or doesn't consist of. So I'd appreciate the tables.
Yep.
You know, I'm sure they exist.
Yes.
So all that.
So what we'll do, Jay, is we'll give you the prelim budget transfers, because I think this is pretty much finalized, and we did present to advisory and the select board last week. So we will send you the tables. Also, we'll make sure we send that to Joe and make sure those are brought on the auditorium screen, because I think the motions are, for those ones are going to be, say, as displayed on the screen. So we'll send you those tables today.
I think I wrote in the handouts and as displayed on this. I can't remember, but
Yeah, I want to know
handouts.
what's going to be explained on the screen so I can look at the sources.
Yep, we'll send that this afternoon.
Okay. So, Article 1, there's no prior year bills here?
No unpaid bills at the moment.
Okay. Article 2, so it says to be transferred, so this is the supplementary
Yes.
stuff, but it's also, you're putting money into stabilization?
Yes. So typically what we've been doing for the last, pretty much for over a decade, is in the Article 2 transfer section, we'll do transfers to stabilization fund, OPEB, trust fund.
Okay.
And then there's some departmental budgets.
That's fine. All right. So you're going to give me the backup on
Yep,
all that stuff?
all that will be today.
Okay, great. All right, Article 3, you're going to have to send to bond counsel, right? That's not, obviously not in a form that your bond counsel would like,
Yep.
right? I assume?
Yep.
mate, don't have it be too long.
It's going to be what it's going to
I'm
be.
kidding.
Very long, yeah.
I get lost in the middle of them sometimes.
They have their own magic.
And again, Article 4 is, I'm going to see the backup on that, so I know the sources. So when we say other sources, like what?
It's going to be free cash and ambulance receipts and water retained earnings.
Okay, so you'll get all that to me. Article 5, still no motion here?
So Article 5 is the article that we had
Yep.
discussed with the schools. No motion. Ingrid is working on a figure, and I think probably.
We're meeting on November 1st with Ingrid and the school committee to review it.
Okay.
We'll take our position and write our motion at that point.
What
Which
kind
I
of
will,
general ballpark on the amount of money for this?
I don't know. I don't,
A lot? A
no,
little?
no, it's.
It's going to be a
it's
lot less than before, but I don't want to give you, maybe after.
It's an amendment to the current feasibility study as much as anything else. They're not starting from scratch. They're sort of using some of the basis from the previous feasibility study to fill in
Are we
gaps.
borrowing, or do we have
No,
pocket
nothing's
money?
on there. I think if it's in the ballpark of around $300,000 or a little lower, 250, 300,000, that would probably be free cash.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Article 6, no motion?
That is the creation of the school building committee, which we wanted to wait until we acted on Article 5 before we took a position. So we're going to take a position on that after we take a position on Article 5.
Okay. Article 7, I've got Board of Health, Green Energy,
And fire station.
Right.
Committee.
anyone else?
Haven't heard from anyone else.
Okay. If, I've already told Andy to cut his down.
We know what he's talking about? Is it the-
Green Energy, just his update. Board of Health, there's some people are not adhering to some of the rules and regs. It's just kind of, he says it's going to be very brief on the Board of Health side. Fire station, just giving a quick update, verbal update. Okay. All right. Article 8. Not happening?
IP.
Why is that?
The conservation agent raised some issues with the Phase 1 sediment sampling, and we want more information before we act on it.
Where's CPC with that?
They didn't raise any objections to IP.
I'd like to hear, who's the chair of CPC?
Cindy Mandrade.
I'd like to hear if.
Sure. I'll tell her after.
At any time where there's a recommendation by advisory for an IP for something that's recommended by a statutory board, I'd like to know if they agree. If they don't, I may give them the first chance to make the main motion.
Jay, I spoke with Cindy as well, and Cindy and CPC are on board after they had some more conversation with Caitlin, our conservation agent. They're on board with IPing that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Article 9. Everyone's okay with that?
Yep.
Ten as well. Eleven as well. I'm assuming that none of these field renovations involve turf?
No.
No.
Right.
All grass.
Where is the Metacomet Greenway Trail going? Can someone put up, will someone be able to put up on the screen something that
Sure.
shows a graphic?
Yeah.
Can we do that? But I would like that, just because people are going to ask, and Article 13 is just acceptance.
Actually, so, Jay, we're going to IP Article 13, and we're on board with that as well.
Okay.
This was a last-minute addition from our treasurer collector, and, we want to give some more information and
Okay.
advisory, so
All right.
we're comfortable with that.
14, new stabilization fund.
Two-thirds.
Yep. So, not that, it's your call, so that means that you're essentially converting future non-borrowing capital to a two-thirds vote in the future. So you're taking it from a majority vote, if you're going to use this fund, to a two-thirds vote.
So the purpose,
Every single time that you access this.
So the
it's your call.
so the purpose of this article was for the larger scale projects, and so like it's trying to allocate some funds, free cash in that stabilization fund for like a pumper, a ladder, or something like that. In terms of our typical capital, we're probably going to fund it the same manner we did in Article 4 via free cash, but this is for our larger projects. So yes, in theory, it would be a two-thirds required for that.
Right, so, the name of it is curious. I'm just trying to wrap my hands around it. I was looking at it this morning. So, you vote to approve a capital project for, let's say, the capital project for borrowing. You vote to approve that. And you want to, in the future years, on your debt service line, on your operating budget, there's a debt service line. That service line is now going to be a two-thirds vote, where it would normally be a majority vote every year, if you want to use this.
No, I guess I would look at it as separate, the intent behind it, the separation of the original borrowing article, for example. I think it's sort of forward planning. Remember the town meeting when one of the respondents had gotten up and said, you have the fire station project. We know we have some of these large-scale projects that are coming down the line in the future. has the town put any money aside to prepare for those items? So free cash has generally been pretty well for the town the past 3 years, about $3 million. But before that was about $1 million. So what our thinking is, hey, if free cash continues to be around this amount, sock away some money sporadically in that account and give us some flexibility in the future for the largest.
The name is kind of a misnomer,
Yeah.
right? Because it's not, it's like if you were moving an article to borrow, and you can call it a stabilization fund, whatever you want, don't get me wrong, and you're not confined to use it for that purpose. But if a fire station or some other big thing came up, and you said, we're going to borrow 10 million, and we're going to take from debt stabilization
Yep.
for the remainder. I mean, it's kind of like debt relief stabilization, I guess, or
Yeah,
just
in
capital
theory, yeah.
stabilization. I guess I get it a little bit.
Yeah.
It just-
Capital stabilization, would that be a better term?
I don't care
No, I
what
mean,
you
I'm-
call it. I mean, it's just, it's
We've
not.
been asking-
It's the title. I agree with you. I think now he understands what it is.
The title makes no sense to me, and I think it's confusing. Now, I think people are going to be more than happy to support it. I don't quite understand it. Because, and if you use it for something that doesn't require any borrowing, because you built it up, which is awesome, then you've then converted normal capital to a 2/3 vote, which is, for a controversial item, is a bummer.
Yeah. Well, I give a good example. For example, the Quint ladders now are pretty, their Quint fire apparatus are pretty expensive. And so we're looking at about $1.7 million. We couldn't fund that in capital with the free cash that we have. It would essentially take away all the other capital projects.
Right.
So the intent would be, if we're able to sock away, 250 and build that up, well, we can still fund our normal capital, but then also still pay for the Quint that's.
Right,
gonna-
and what I'm saying is you're turning the Quint into a 2/3.
Right, yep.
But it would be.
But it would be a major-
We'd
If
have
you're
to borrow.
borrowing.
We'd have to
Right.
borrow to buy it under
mean,
current circumstances.
Not necessarily. Well, that's all I'm saying. As long as everyone goes into it eyes wide open, if you're going to access this for non-borrowing capital, you've
Absolutely.
now erased the
I understand.
distinction
I understand,
between
yeah.
borrowing and non-borrowing capital, which to me seems counterproductive.
We always saw it as, when it was pitched to us, it was for the things that we would have to borrow for anyways. Because it's always been the competing, it's been recently when we've been talking about the school and the fire department, fire
Fine.
station, et cetera. So-
I mean, it's fine with me. It seems like it maybe should be a capital stabilization fund, but I'm okay with it. Tri-county. So this is, we're going to be putting away money. I was just talking to Kevin about this, hopefully to help us with the debt service over there.
Yes.
Okay. So, again, is that then going to be on an annual basis? You're going to have a separate article?
So there's two thoughts here, and the board, I think, needs to have a conversation. We need to put this on a future board agenda as well as advisory. So obviously, the Tri-County project passed. I think there's a couple avenues to approach it. There's one to possibly look at doing a debt exclusion to pay for the assessment. Obviously, there's one where you fund it within the levy, but where the town's finances are now, you can't do that. I think the stabilization fund is to create it, see if there's appetite for the community to support debt exclusion for it, and if not, we use the stabilization fund and start using some of our free cash to fund it and pay for it in that manner.
Right, noting that when you bring it as a separate article, or it would at least be a separate motion in the omnibus if it was identified as a source, you're creating, again, a supermajority vote required that, and if people don't vote it, then other things are going to be cut.
Right.
Because your obligation is fixed.
Yes.
So, I mean, I get being able to, wanting to sock away money for it, but almost seems like if the source of it is going to be free cash anyway.
I think, the purpose is, free cash is technically, it's not something that, you're guaranteed to be.
No,
right?
I get that.
And
but
so-
you're going to be putting money into it in a majority requiring money coming out of it on an annual basis in a 2/3.
Yep.
Whereas if it's a year-to-year thing and you've calculated that we can afford this much of free cash to put into it, you've just kind of created a quantum of vote issue for yourself every year. Now, hopefully people will support it, and I expect they will. Obviously, pretty supportive of Troy County. But you see what I mean?
No, I
It's
understand.
an annual thing that you've then put yourself in a tougher vote at town meeting for every year. Whereas if you know you only can put into it what free cash is going to provide you to put into it, then rather than just citing that as a source in your omnibus for that debt service, you're kind of in this position.
I guess the best example would be like to say, we've had $3 million in certified free cash generally. So we can do some forward planning and put maybe $200,000 in it. Now, if we had a $1 million free cash certification and we had some other capital expenses, if we weren't able to fund that $500,000.
Yeah, I guess you could put away more than a single year's worth in there.
Right.
Okay.
And that's the intent of it.
All right. Sounds good to me. All right, so 16 and 17. 17 has an issue because you're going to have to name the percentage, right, Tom?
Yeah, and I thought we did that in the motion.
The motion does not have it.
Well, we could include it in the motion.
You have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And that's what we've got the draft, and I think Tom and I are going to take a look at what we've received, and we're going to make some additions to it.
Okay.
And we'll send it to advisory and to you, Jay, before.
Yep.
And we're doing 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, I would imagine. Okay. All right, 18. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. Can we go back to 17?
Sure.
So the way I think we addressed it, and interested in your thoughts on this, is at the bottom, where it says, "And further, to authorize the deposit of all opioid settlement funds into the newly established fund described in Article 16."
So I don't see that in my motion.
In the article.
It's not in the motion.
Not the motion, the article.
Yeah, but it's not as printed. I think you should just put 100%
Yeah,
in the motion. In the
Okay,
motion.
yeah.
Okay, 18 can't be as printed in the warrant. And you need the, so Tom, let me ask you on this, because and I've had this before, this is going to be a discussion only two land use lawyers can enjoy. So under Chapter 41, Section 81U, towards the end,
Yeah.
it says, it has a reference back to Chapter 44, Section 53.
You have a better memory than I, but yeah.
So under 4181U, it says you don't need specific appropriation up to 100 grand.
Right.
But then when and it says, as noted in 44, Section 53, under 53, there's no such limit. It says any monies for roads. So I've always been kind of stuck in between on that.
Whether you need the town meeting approval or not?
Yeah, whether you need the town meeting, and I also haven't seen, I don't know what the agreement says. Sometimes we rely on an agreement,
Yeah.
which says, that these monies are segregated and we just get to grab all of them.
Right.
So I don't know what that agreement is. I'd love to see it. So it'd be good to see. So I think the motion, assuming that this is, it's just whatever, it's redundancy, even if we could do it by right. So I'm okay with that, but it just says transfer. It does say these funds are the performance bond, so I think it,
Yeah, I hear you.
but I need the source a little bit more spelled out in the motion.
Yep.
The treasurer is already required to segregate those funds.
Yeah.
So maybe we could just tighten that up a little bit?
Yep, I hear what you're saying.
There's also a discussion somewhere in here that there was maybe some other money required?
I think I said in my write-up that it's not going to cover the entire project, which is what we heard from the planning.
Yeah, it's not gonna,
And these aren't public ways yet.
correct, they're not public ways.
So,
Step one is to make them a public way, essentially. They'll have to come back for more money at some point to finish the roads. But this is the place to start, was with this, is the way it was explained to us.
Yeah, so I think this is under our authority as a planning board holding a bond.
right.
Yeah.
Right, it's the extra monies that would be an issue
Yeah.
if they were done before acceptance as a public way, because it's spending money on a private way.
But I don't think I think we're just spending what's in the bond.
Just what's in the bond.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get that confirmed, because you cannot spend money on a private way.
Look at him.
Well,
I believe
So
you.
we will,
you can spend the bond money
Yeah.
and that's it.
And get as much done as we can.
Unless you then start doing, I mean, you may end up doing betterments over there anyway to
If-
get them.
if it's gonna be
That's going to
public.
make all those people really happy. But how much money are we talking?
in terms of,
You know, have you had an engineer out there?
we've done estimates with we're probably around 600,000?
So there's an acceptance statute, I don't know if we've accepted it, to do the work,
On
to spend
private.
our money,
Yeah.
and then there's some betterment possibilities there, but until it was a public way, we would have to adopt one of those, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm just saying that, for this to be synced up legally at some point. That's a bummer that they haven't done this.
Yeah.
So, but I would like to see the agreement, just so I know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And as I was looking at this, we're just getting access to the funds right now
Right.
with their town meeting vote.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping and assuming that the agreement itself, which I think predated you probably, Tom, is robust enough for us to get full access of, because otherwise sometimes you need a court order. So
to the
that's why
200%.
that's why I'd like to see the agreement, just to make sure. So if you can get that,
Okay.
again, lawyer issue maybe, but, okay. 19, pretty straightforward, right? There's going to be, someone's going to talk about this on
Chad
your
will
end?
speak, yep.
Who's the chair?
Chad Peck? will
Okay,
speak
still
to
Chad?
that. Yep.
Okay. 20, thank you for accommodating my intemperate critique on these. They read a lot better now, so.
Yes, thank you.
And they make sense. So someone, again, is going to talk about that, right?
Yes, Chad will as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is just kind of loosening up some of the stuff on pre-existing non-conformings.
Correct.
So I did have that one question. Tom, did you see my question on that?
I did. So, kind of,
We can't take away rights that people have, or jurisdiction of the building commissioner
Right.
to say, and I think the example they give in maybe the Bjorkland case
Yeah.
or something like is, okay, a little dormer or something like
or a
that.
single car garage, I think.
Right, something very minor.
Yeah.
So I'm a little, I mean, the AG will probably approve this.
I think they will. This is not, I think I've seen approvals that are like
Right.
this. So the way I was thinking about this, and you raise a good point, is so it's pretty hard, I think, as a drafting exercise to identify all these things that, fly under the radar. I forget the exact term they used.
Yeah, it's essentially a de minimis standard, right?
But the building inspector can still apply it. So I think it's fine that the planning board wants to adopt this, and I think it'll clear the AG, and then I think the next step is to talk with Bob to make sure that when he's getting the applications, so instead of trying to address it in the bylaw, we address it with Bob to say, okay, now you need to be aware that some of these things are going to fly under the radar.
Right,
be
and
de
Bob's
minimis.
always, I mean, Bob has his own sense of that, and it's pretty good. When I speak to building commissioners, and this is actually, these series of cases are a subject at their annual seminar that I talk at, as I always say, when you're in doubt, just send it to the zoning board, you know, because you don't want to be, but there are instances where it's so minor. Technically here, even so minor gets caught up in the special permit process, but, you know, I think that Bob is smart enough and, you know, whatever it's going to be. There is a potential infirmity here. I don't think anyone will care at the AG's office. If someone just took a zoning class up there, maybe they'll flag it, but I doubt it, right? So, and we're not going to call it to their attention.
Okay.
So, okay. All right, and that takes care of, so then 21 similar, right?
Somewhat, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, it's in the same vein,
Yeah, in the same vein, yeah.
yeah, okay. All right, that takes us through it. Anything else?
Nope, I'll make sure we send you the capital.
So a few amendments here, bond council, I'd like get the opioid one,
Motion.
yeah, a couple other ones there.
I'll fix that.
Yeah. And if there's any other, if anyone comes out of the woodwork and wants to do a presentation, send them my way so I can find out what it is.
Continue to do so, yep.
Yeah, all those, the creation of the two stabilizations are 2/3.
Zoning 2/3.
Yep, zoning 2/3. We're going to see a graphic on the,
Not a comment.
yeah, I think that's good. I think town meeting will appreciate that. And we're going to get the backup on the Shire, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And 18. We need to tie down the source in the motion itself. So, aside from that, I'm good. Anyone else, questions?
We're meeting on the 1st, so if there's any way that the motion changes could be done by then, we can talk about it if anyone's got any questions about why they changed. And I know one of our members will have questions about why it changed.
I'm gonna take a first crack at it today, and then I think Tom will
Yep.
take it, and we'll probably get to you before the first.
You think you'll be, or I'd rather not take the school one down to the last minute? Is that
Going
going
to
to be
vote on the
wrapped up?
1st, so we'll know on the 1st what we're doing. I haven't seen anything, so I
So
mean,
if-
I've seen the language, but I haven't seen the amount.
If you're talking to the school folks, like, let's get it done.
I
I
spoke
think-
with Ingrid, I think they're close.
Right,
on that,
okay.
yeah.
She and I talked about the 1st as being, they know that's their deadline for us, and then if it's not coming on the 1st, we're not taking a position before town meeting, and we would have to recommend an IP or something like that, so, which we do not want to do, I don't think, so.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm good.
You, Jay?
Anything else at town meeting that I should be aware of?
Not yet.
Yeah. And you guys have no message? We're just going to get right into it? You have nothing else going on?
No qualms this year. No, we're good.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you, Andrew.